The story you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. Viewer discretion is advised. Today's shocking story takes us to the deepest, darkest jungles of the heart of Africa. In the tropical jungle of Sierra Leone, thick tree canopies drape over rugged mountains in a truly breathtaking fashion. Plant and animal diversity is so rich here that it would take multiple pages to list all of the different species. The beautiful scenery masks a truly horrifying incident. Involving a beast so terrifying, locals now drive through this area in armored vehicles. Some say it was a freak occurrence. Others claim this animal was a ticking time bomb, ready to blow. Whatever you believe, the events that took place could only be described as bone-chilling. This is the shocking story of Bruno, the killer chimpanzee. The date is April 23, 2006, and American subcontractors are working in completing the American embassy nearby when they are offered the chance to visit the Takagama Chimpanzee Refuge. This is an exciting proposal to the men. Alan Robertson, Gary Brown, and Richie Goody follow their local friend and guide, Melvin Mama, and hail a taxi. As the group drives down the country road leading to the refuge, they admire the jungle as it blurs by, and they feel exuberant. Taxi cab driver Issa Kanu knows the route well, even though the road is not maintained. Their vehicle turns onto the main road that leads up the hill to the refuge. The men share an exciting moment together in a truly unique part of the world. Unbeknownst to them, the chimpanzees at the refuge have been observing the keeps while they work. In particularly, the way they open and close the gates to the cages. The chimps have watched and seen the process completely, closely enough, that they learned how to open the doors and gates themselves. A short time before the contractors decided to visit, the chimps escaped, and have now overwhelmed the gates and personnel of the sanctuary. There are now 31 chimps surrounding the refuge, and they are not happy. Some of these chimps have seen their parents killed, or been forced to participate in psychological or medical research, leading experts to believe that the chimps have not developed a favorable opinion of people in general. As the subcontractors approached the refuge, they could see movement in the trees, just off the road leading up the hill. Bruno, a 270-pound alpha male chimpanzee, watches the vehicle containing the four men approach up the road. He immediately drops from the canopy of the jungle onto the road, blocking the path of the car. Issa, the driver, immediately throws the car into reverse and begins driving backwards as fast as the car would go. Fleeing only angered the chimp. Bruno was eye level with the front window of the car and began jumping from one side of the car to the other, smashing and slamming his fists down, leaving softball-sized dents across the top of the car. Issa slams on the brakes as the car screeches to a halt. Dust and dirt fill the air as the men hear nothing but the sounds of their own heavy breathing. Fear could be seen in their eyes as they frantically look around for the killer chimp. All of a sudden, a loud explosion shook the car as glass and debris flew into the faces of the occupants. Bruno rushed out of the brush and punched his way through the car window and began attacking the driver. The men fought for their lives and somehow managed to push the chimpanzee out of the car window. Issa's hand had been completely bitten off. Losing a lot of blood, Gary took off his shirt and wrapped it around Issa's arm in an attempt to stop the bleeding. Blood began spewing through the shirt. Issa needs to get to a hospital fast as he starts to lose consciousness. They slam the car into drive and begin speeding down the long dirt road towards the gates of the sanctuary. In his state of panic, Issa misses the turn, which would take the car out of the sanctuary and into safety. Disorientated, confused, and losing a lot of blood, the men are now lost in the complex maze of the sanctuary. As the car speeds down the road, the men are stopped in their tracks. A 12-foot tall, large locked gate is blocking the car's path out. The blood-curdling screams of Bruno echo in the forest behind them. With no other choice, Isa pushes the gas pedal down to the floor, crashing the car through the locked gate. The metal gate is blown apart as the car speeds down the road. For a moment, the men share a sigh of relief. However, this was short-lived. Soon after the car breaches the gate, smoke and heat start pouring out from underneath the hood, and the car slowly rolls to a dead stop. Knowing what's coming for them, the men jumped out of the car and start running for their lives. Within seconds, chaos erupts. The killer chimp jumps on Melvin and begins mauling him. In one swift movement, Bruno bites off the foot of Melvin, spraying blood across the road. Gary Brown cannot believe what he is seeing. For a moment, he loses his breath and blacks out. Visions of life, back home in Austin, Texas, fill his mind. He thinks of his friends and family. Going to local sporting events, barbecuing on the pit in his backyard, and watching football with friends seems like a lifetime ago. The sound of Melvin screaming for his life shakes Gary out of his trance and back into this new, painful reality. Gary is now full of adrenaline. Instead of running, he looks around the area and finds a large broken tree limb on the side of the road. Gary hits the chimp with all of his might, trying to stop the attack on his friend, Melvin. For a brief moment, the chimp leaped off of the road and into the dense surrounding forest, disappearing from view. Melvin is losing a large amount of blood and needs to get out of the sanctuary. Gary picks him up and starts carrying him down the road as fast as he can. As the men are running for their lives, the loud screeching of the chimps pierce their ears. 31 chimps are hidden in the shadows, screaming and taunting the wounded and terrified men. Unbelievably, the men find the main road. A passing-by truck spots them and drives them to a nearby hospital. The driver of that truck also drove past the men's abandoned car. The body of their driver, Isa, was unrecognizable, as the other escaped chimps mauled him to death. Gary and Melvin survived this terrifying experience. Of the 31 chimps that escaped the sanctuary that day, 27 were recaptured or returned on their own. 4 of the chimps, including Bruno, are still on the loose, never to have been seen again.